Hey everybody, welcome to the Unsung Podcast, episode number 3. Today I'm here with Jay Cooper. Never met this guy in person, but we met through a Brothers Path page, through our mutual friend Kevin Smith, who will be on with me in future weeks. Um, I saw that Jay had released the book, and I started searching his history, and we have a lot in common as far as training and just different types of training. So I'm like, I gotta have this guy on because he's a total badass. So Jay, welcome to my little show here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so my first little question here, and then I'll let you go. You're from a place called Hyde in Tameside in the UK. Now, my
Mm.
question there, Motley Crue wrote the song Wild Side. Is there a band that has released a song called Tameside?
No, but Tameside is pretty wild in and of its own right. So it's probably named after a sense of irony, especially
Oh,
if you look at some of the places there. Like Hyde is, it's a relatively small town. And I actually lived in G Cross, which is the village of the small town. So you got divisions within divisions within divisions. But then you got some places like Ashton under Lyne there, which is a little ropey. And some of the less well off areas in north of England. It's all right. It's like a sort of industrial area, so it is what it is. But yeah, tame doesn't always seem to be the best way to describe it. But yeah, I'm not sure you do a song called Tame Side. You said, "I let's take a walk on the Tame Side."
yeah.
It's like
Which
pipe and
band do you think would
slippers
make
and a
that?
cup of cocoa.
I'm
That'd be
I'm
the Tame
thinking
Side.
I'm thinking Oasis could do a really cool song called Tameside.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like these days, and at my age now, Tame side seems like a good idea. I'm kind of done with wild, so Tame. I'll take all the Tame I can get.
It is. It could be a song for people like me that are in mountain time zone that have to go to bed at 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve. So we watch the Ontario one and pretend it's New Year's. And
You don't just set the clocks for no one to know any better. I'll take a walk on the mild side.
oh, there you go.
That'll
Wow, I
work
like
too.
that. We should patent that. I guess we're recording, so it already is. So, for you could describe you in one word, like I know you do a lot of martial arts training, but let's just tell my little crew here who you are.
Well, I don't know about one word, but I can try it in several sentences. Uh, I'm a martial arts instructor. It's uh, my career, so to speak. And it's a path that's been with me ever since it was kind of almost thrust upon me as a young child. I mean, you get certain things which you have an interest in, and for me, it was actually a video game on an old 8-bit computer system called Way of the Exploding Fist, which was
Oh,
like a kind of karate simulator game. Still, actually, a game I play to this day because I still do a lot of retro gaming, and that got me fascinated with martial arts. And of course, the 80s was just post the Bruce Lee boom from the 70s. So martial arts it was kind of in the public consciousness and things. And I had an incident where I got the poop kicked out of me by some bullies, and I made a decision at that point. Okay, I don't want that ever to happen to me again. And I started looking at the martial arts that are available in my area. That led me to a karate club, and with a few bumps in the road, I've been doing that ever since. It saw me through university. I was doing martial arts there. I did a park ranger's job. I joined the police force in the UK, the police force out here in Canada, where I'm based now. But martial arts was always there in the background, both as a support system for what I was doing professionally and as its own form of mental tonic. There's something to be said for getting an energetic release out there, and certainly martial arts is one of the most honest ones that there is. In the same way that Henry Rollins once said, you can lie to yourself about lots of things, but £10 is always £10 and £100 is always £100. You can't lie to yourself about the weight you can lift. And it's the same with martial arts. You can, put all the uniforms and belts on, but at the end of the day, if someone's trying to punch you in the face and you don't block it, you're going to get punched in the face. So for me, as a martial arts instructor, I try not to become obsessive with it, but it just was such a big part of my life. You can't really have me without the martial arts. Um, I don't let it define me. I prefer to be defined by being a good friend, a good dad, a good, partner, good whatever it happens to be. It's just I happen to be a martial artist and those things at the same time. It led to an interest for me in policing, certainly in the self-protection aspects of martial arts, which is one reason I created and ran a YouTube channel in conjunction with actually some local guys, the Budo brothers, who are a Calgary-based entrepreneur set that do martial arts lifestyle clothing and equipment. It's called Reality Check, and in that I looked at street fights, crime situations, and conflicts, and look at the trigger points, because anyone can teach you how to throw a punch. That's not a difficult thing to do. Anyone can teach you how to kick or throw or all that sort of thing as well, and with varying degrees of success or veracity to the claims. But it's the when to do it and the why you did it, which is where a lot of people tend to fall down, especially when it comes to the law. And that can lead to a lot of myths like, well, criminals have got more rights than, normal citizens and yada, 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 and all that. It just isn't true. It's just most people don't understand and they let things become an ego driven thing. And they tend to react rather than act to circumstances. And so my hope was in creating Reality Check, not only to bring a little bit of a rod of reality into what people perceive conflict as versus what it actually is, but also to try and educate people on, look, I'm not saying what to do, but I'm saying if you do a course of action, at least make it a choice rather than something that you just viscerally respond to and then have to spend a lot of time trying to explain away with limited success.
No, I've watched a lot of your videos and stuff in the training, and it's as someone that's because I've taught a few people some things with boxing and holding pads, and
Mm-hmm.
I had this girl came in with me, or she was being bullied at school, and her mom reached out and says, "How much for?" I'm like, "Nothing. I have a 10-year-old girl,"
Mm-hmm.
and we did 10 sessions together, and she never got physical with her bully, but she made a point that this was the last time she was going to mess with her, and I don't
It,
how do you feel when you see someone's face the first time they hit that pad and there's that pop?
it it's it's quite exhilarating to watch people grow with what you give them.
Yeah,
Your own development is fantastic. I mean, as individuals, it's great that we work on ourselves, and we're always these constant works in progress. But the ability to then help and inspire someone else to become a better version of themselves, however, whatever that looks like, is far more rewarding, and it has a ripple effect that goes way beyond anything you can conceive of. When and again, it's just getting them past their own self-imposed limitations, um, and the excitement and the almost surprise in their face. So it's like, okay, oh wow, where did that come from, sort of thing, and they didn't even know it was in them, and you're like, that's the thing to do, and
yeah,
they'll try and do it again, and then they miss it. So no, okay, keep trying. But the fact they did it once means they will chase that feeling again. It's kind of like the physical equivalent of someone was like when in golf. They say you'll hit the ball perfectly once, and then you'll spend the entire rest of your golfing career trying to hit it that well again.
yeah.
uh, I don't play golf, so I'm going to take their word for that. But it's
Man,
a little
I'm
bit. Martial arts is the same sort of dealio. Sometimes you're always searching for that one rep better and that one thing that you do. The fascinating thing being, of course, is the better you get in it, the more disgusted you are with your own progress. And you're like, oh man, it just seems like I've got this mountain to climb. And the higher you get up it, and realistically speaking, you should be holding yourself to the highest standards. I mean, I certainly compare myself to my teachers, and I know they compare themselves to their teachers. And I'm sure their teachers compare to themselves to their teachers. So you're always trying to ascribe to a higher standard and push yourself forward that little bit further. But when it comes to helping, people that are bullied or just underconfident, or even people that are overweight and want to do something like that, because martial arts isn't about fighting. It really isn't, unless you look at it as a conflict with yourself. Life does have risks. There are lots of things that go wrong. But if you are spending your entire life fighting, you may want to reconsider some of your lifestyle choices.
for sure.
Instead of that, it becomes self-development through self-defense. It's a means to an end, not an end in and of itself. So with your case with the young girl that did the lessons with you against the bullies, she gained something within her which made her not a target anymore. You don't have to be the biggest, the baddest, and the best. You don't have to be, someone that can rip people's arms off. You have to be a wasp. Now, unless you have anaphylaxis, no one's going to really die from a wasp stinging you. But no one goes near the little stripy buggers because they know it's going to sting and it's going to suck. So a wasp has got this thing that, oh, God, no one gets stung off that wasp. It can't do anything really. And if you
No,
squash it, it's not going to do anything after that. But there's that risk to reward ratio why no one tangles with the wasp. So
Yeah,
if you look at yourself as making you a hard target, then they'll bullies especially will tend to go for the victims. They don't want opponents, they want victims. You don't have to beat them. You just have to make it not worth the effort to try and beat you.
nice. My daughter's 10, as you know, and she did about 6 months of karate. Then the pandemic hit, and then she switched to doing boxing with me at home. And now she's been doing Muay Thai for about 3 months and just so hooked on it.
Muay Thai's
And
a very addictive art. So's boxing though, in
yeah,
fairness.
but she's getting strong. We used to have these, wrestling matches, and I could just take her down no problem. And the other night, she flicked me off the bed with her legs. I'm like, what's going on here?
I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't
No,
sign up for this, you know. It's but
no. I've watched again. I was watching your videos and stuff. I noticed you, Bruce Lee was a big part of getting you started.
yeah, he was. I actually teach his art.
Wow,
So although Bruce Lee's, most people know him as the movie star and the movie icon. In fact, I think it's relatively safe to say he made martial arts cinema accessible to a much wider audience. Obviously, it existed long before him. There was like the Wong Fei Hung films, and martial arts was always kind of in the background a little bit. But he was a breakout superstar across the world and remains so to this day. If you say name a martial arts star, Bruce Lee's in the top five of everybody's answers, if not the first one that people come up with.
for
But a
sure.
lot of people don't know he also created his own martial art, Jeet Kune Do, literally translated Way of the Intercepting Fist. And I teach that under the auspices of Sifu Harinder Singh out of down in California. And I've been doing that I've been doing martial arts overall for about 35 plus years now, but I've been doing Jeet Kune Do for about 20. And it's a wonderful art, and it's not just punching and kicking. There's a huge philosophical aspect underneath it. And if you read a lot of Bruce's writings, which weren't his writings in the strictest sense of the word, they were thoughts that occurred to him as he was reading other people's books and other people's manuals. So he never really penned too much himself that was Bruce Lee material. It was his lecture notes that he drew from elsewhere. But it's fascinating to see his thought processes and where he was at. And of course, it does give rise to its own unique thoughts. So Bruce Lee said, we're not training to fight. The punches and the kicks that we do are tools we use to destroy our own egos, which is a pretty deep statement when you actually get into it. And it's always nice to look at the more philosophical and esoteric underpinnings to any physical system. And certainly Bruce was very, very big into that. Although people think he did philosophy at university, he didn't. He actually majored in drama. Philosophy was one of his supplemental studies that he did there, but he had a definite fascination, borderline obsession with philosophy and philosophers.
Nice. Now, what made me actually reach out to you first? Because you had posted a book that you had out. And I'm
Yes.
like, all right, fellow author, let's talk. Little
Well, that was
different style, but
it
talk
is, but I
about
mean, I see. I loved your book when I got a copy of that. I found it a genuinely inspiring tale, and knowing even with if you don't know the background to the book, it's a great book. When you know the background to your book, it's a really great book because it's obviously there's so much of you in that's there. So it was an absolute joy that we connected that way. And you're right, mine is slightly different. But then again, also slightly not. Yours is coming from your experiences, and it's a manifestation of your experiences and lessons extrapolated from that. The book I wrote is called The Hound's Tale, which is stories from my journey in martial arts, in life, in policing, and everything in between. And it's autobiographical, but it's not an autobiography. It's more like a series of episodes done in a loose chronological narrative, just to kind of show how, from a beginning point, I've gone all the way through to where I am today and how I've become that way. And it's the lessons I've learned along the way, what I've done right, definitely lots of what I did wrong in there. And it's just hopefully showing people that I don't think I've lived a particularly extraordinary life, but I've had some extraordinary things go on in it. So we're all in situations day to day that are lessons to us. They don't have to be spectacular lessons. Everything we do offers us a chance for reflection, a chance for growth, a chance to push forward, and a chance to be a better person than we were yesterday. And it's nice and therapeutic to be able to chart my own journey a little bit. And I've got about four more books planned just off the back of telling the stories because when you start, you're like, oh,
Yeah, it's
What do I put in it? And then you start to think, oh, I can't put that one in that would go better over here, and I'll do this one for another book. And I didn't want it to be a martial arts book. I didn't want it to be a police book, but those were all part of my journey. I didn't want it to be just about Jay, but of course, I'm the one that's actually walking this journey. So it's the lessons and the things I got from it. It's out an ebook at the moment. There's a physical copy coming out soon. I've got to get my proofs finished and approved. And of course, the Canada Post strike did not make it easy to get hold of those proofs, so they're still not in my hand. So I can't publish the physical copies yet, but I just got delayed by a little bit, and that's fine. And I'm hoping to get the Audible book out soon, because it's one thing to read it, but to hear my voice, my accent, my intonation, telling my own story adds a dimension to it, which I've told is entertaining in and of its own right by the people that have not only read the book but heard me tell the stories after a few cheeky pints in the pub afterwards.
Now, if you could get anybody out there to read your book for an audible version, who are you picking?
Other than myself,
Yeah, other than you.
other than me, oh good grief. Um, it would have to be a person of the English persuasion. Um, I'd probably go for someone from Northern England. Not Liam Gallagher. That would be a
Hey,
little too harsh.
he's going to be busy working on our "Take a Walk on the Mountainside" song. He's
True. Maybe someone like Benedict Wong, I think, would do a good job of reading it. Um, Everyone, he was um, the character Wong in Doctor Strange,
mm,
but he's actually a Mancunian actor. He's got a good Manchester accent, but he can do some accents, and you can obviously shift and change between them. So I don't know. Benedict Wong reading an audiobook of my life that'd be pretty cool. Fellow Manc boy reading my book.
nice. So I get a lot of people that are going to be on this page as looking for mental health advice. So it's where we met, weight loss advice.
Hmm.
If there's someone out there listening to this and they're struggling, like me, boxing, I think fixed my mind totally from PTSD. I tried therapists,
Mm-hmm.
just the discipline and working with trainers. How big do you think martial arts affects someone's mental health?
Any physical activity will always make you feel better, because it raises obviously your endorphin levels and things like that as well. And I'm obviously going to say do martial arts because it's what worked for me
Yeah.
and continues to work for me. The reason I like martial arts is there's no end to it. You're always trying to get better, and even something as simple as moving your foot a little, half an inch to the left or something like that, or the elbow a little tighter. And just when you think you've got it, there's something else to learn and go further forward from that. So it is literally the gift that keeps on giving, and it's something that you can do forever. Um, I'm not saying you can't do other sports forever, but when age starts to kick in, certain physical aspects, like I'm 51 now, I can't necessarily move quite as well as I did when I was 31. Although, ironically, the 51 version-year-old of Jay would probably batter almost any other version that's gone before him because of the way I've been progressing my training. So when you're younger, you're like a log with flames coming off it. And it's like, burn bright. It's like that. As you get a little bit older, you're more like embers. So you don't burn as fiercely, but you put off a lot more heat for a lot longer because you just learn to kind of like tailor it in. So one of the reasons I always suggest people do martial arts is you can stay with it for as long as you choose to. Your body will not stop working. It will just find different ways to do the same material. So it's an ongoing, eternal process, that not only will settle your body, it will settle your mind too. You can't be thinking about anything else when someone's trying to choke you or someone's trying to kick you or someone's trying to punch you. If you're thinking about the bills or the stresses at work or what someone else at work said about you, you're going to start eating punches or you're going to get choked out or something else is going to happen. So it teaches you to be present. It becomes a microcosm for life. You're present in the moment and you extract the lessons and you extract the juice from the squeeze in each moment. And that's what I find one of the beauties of martial arts is it's very rewarding if you put yourself into it. And if you don't put yourself into it, it will quickly tell you that you're not there. So it teaches you to be present more than anything else. And the sense of camaraderie and joy that you get from being around other martial artists. It's a solo pursuit done in a group, which is not as paradoxical as it would sound. Everyone supports each other. Everyone knows that they're trying to work to get better. There's friendly rivalries. There's fun, and it's very strange that you can form incredibly close bonds with people by punching each other in the face or by bending an arm to the point where it's going to run all the little things like that. But you do, and like you'll know yourself from your time in boxing, and I'm sure your daughter does it in Muay Thai as well. When your friend catches you good with a oh yeah, you a little nod and smile like, yeah, that was a good shot. And it's silly things like that. But when you can be comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation physically, whether that's someone squashing you with their body weight, throwing punches, left hooks into your ribs, or side kicks at your head, um, everything else starts to look a little easier to deal with because you get used to dealing with that pressure and that panic, and you get through it. And the same skills that you use on a purely physical level also then transfer over to everything else that you do in life. It's still conflict, it's still combat, it's still an adrenal load, and the stresses that you get from it, the way you cope with it there will carry on in the way you cope with it in life. And if you can't cope with it, you develop strategies and ways to get better at coping with it, and that will then carry over into your everyday life. We live in a world where people talk about, in adrenalized state and all that sort of thing, but you've got fight, flight, and obviously the forgotten one, which is freeze. And everyone tends to fall into either the fight or the flight category. Um, but neither one is better than the other. It's just our visceral responses to situations. And a martial art will tell you a little bit about yourself. Are you a fighter or are you a flight? And if you are one or the other, it doesn't mean you're better. It doesn't mean you're worse. It just means that's your go-to response. Being aware of what your go-to response is means you then have got a greater awareness of what's going to trigger you, when it's going to trigger you. And so you then learn to recognize when your reactive points are going to come in. And again, it comes to that part where I said about you start to make choices, not reactions. And as soon as you choose to do something, whether it's right or wrong in the actual consequences at the end, at least you can stand by and explain why it was you did that thing. And the other thing with martial arts that teaches you about life is keep going. You have to keep going. And that's always the advice I say to someone when they said, how do I get good at martial arts? I said, you keep doing martial arts. Well, yeah, I know that. But, what's the secret to getting good? You keep doing martial art. That's it. If you do the most of what you do the most of, and you get better when you do more of it. And it's the same in life. The more you do life, the better you get at life, provided you are willing to take the lessons on that life's giving you. And sometimes you get dealt a really bad hand. It's just the way it goes. But when you've got family, when you've got friends around you, folding isn't always an option. So you play that hand.
It's
And
amazing.
that's where you go.
I've got one last question before we get out of here that I've
Sure.
asked I've asked all my guests so far. 100-meter dash,
Mm-hmm.
100 meters, pigeon carrying contest. How many do you think you could put in your arms, and how many would you have in your arms at the end of the race?
Well, one of the reasons I'm so good at fighting is I'm absolutely terrible at running. So as long as there's no speed actually involved in this, I think with pigeons, it would depend how you carry it. So if you wedge a couple under your armpits, couple in the crux of the arm, so you can get a good four there without really thinking about it. I reckon one each on two of the forearms. So I've got six there with a pull in, probably. So you're looking at a minimum of one, two, three, four, five, six, seven
7? Okay.
comfortably. I think you can carry seven comfortably. You might get eight stacking it, but yeah, you're gonna get a big problem with that. I'm going for a comfortable seven, and I reckon, given the fact I'm not very fast, I'd probably still keep all seven, but I'm going to keep at least four. The ones that might get out could be the ones in the crooks of the elbows. Under the armpits are staying there, the forearms are staying there, and the one I'm holding here. So the elbow ones might pop out, but if you drop it down and sink it into your lats, I reckon with a little bit of sideways on, I can have all seven at the end when I'm finished.
Wow, wow. Watching all these hard subjects I'm talking about. This is what'll get my podcast flag from PETA or something. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on with me. I will when this launches, I'll put your Facebook page in there, and if people want to reach out or
Thank you.
work with you in Calgary or whatever happens there, we'll just go from there. Thanks for coming
Thank you.
on with me, and
Thanks for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing it, and yeah, I hope this continues to grow. You're certainly putting a worthwhile message out there, and it's nice to see you getting this variety of guests and things on. I'm looking forward to seeing who else comes on.
awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Take care, bud.